we meet? Are we okay? Yes. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes of September 7th and 29th?
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Thank you. Motion made by Dan. Matt, did I say second?
I'll second it, though I'm not logged on yet, but I'm actually here, but I will do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, all in favor? Okay, so we're on to the cybersecurity report.
Yes. Basically, Karen called in sick today, so you have the documents that were previously provided. If there are any questions, I will try valiantly to answer them and probably fail miserably.
I can also help answer any questions, and I actually have a couple of cybersecurity things to talk about as well, since Karen and Roger are not here, if that's okay.
Wonderful, Terry. That would be, I think, helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you're up. Go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I guess the first question is, are there any questions on the last two reports? I can start there. And the other couple of things that I wanted to talk about was the cybersecurity training. Karen and I have been working. Karen has developed a great cybersecurity training program. We've included all of the county and DSS. We've rolled it out to the department heads a little over a month ago. And by the end of this month, we'd like to roll it out to everybody else. That is our goal. We wanted to bring it up at committee just to let everybody know that we are trying very hard to get voluntary cooperation with having people complete the program. I'm not sure which direction that's going to go, but we wanted to bring that up and just make you all aware that that's our first goal.
Great.
So I don't know if there's any questions or comments on the cybersecurity training program.
It looks
Okay.
like everybody's in agreement to take the class.
Okay, awesome. And then the next thing I wanted to talk just a minute about is cybersecurity insurance. That's been a very big topic lately with insurance rates going up. And we had a little bit of, so we preemptively, Karen reached out to our cybersecurity insurance provider, and we had a really interesting conversation with them as well as one of their cybersecurity experts. And I just wanted to bring this up so that all the towns are aware too, because this is something that will affect everybody going forward. Because I believe of all the ransomware and all the claims that the insurance companies have had, they're significantly changing their requirements to even be able to have cybersecurity insurance. We are fortunate enough that we're in a pretty good position, but we have many changes that we're going to have to make even within the county in terms of MFA. So with that said, I can certainly talk to anybody that would like to individually about different options and what the county is going to be doing to be able to have a cybersecurity policy. But long story short, it sounds like all cyber insurance companies, in order to even have a policy or get a policy, that they are going to be requiring MFA access and all external and internal access to people's systems, including email and data. Including all admin access, local and remote. So I just wanted to bring that up so that people could preemptively, if you intend to have cybersecurity insurance, preemptively talk to your vendor. And if you need any assistance, I'll be happy to help in any way that we can. So I wanted to bring that up. I know it's a big topic lately.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Terry on that subject? Go ahead, Brian.
We touched on this before, and I think kind of where I wanted to go is because there's so many small towns that this is a huge expense to us as we go online, because we haven't been online. We haven't had internet to speak of. I was wondering if we could look at this more globally so that as we build our platforms, can we build the same platform, same company, same type thing as the county has, so there's a way we can be integrated, and you can help us out. We can pay you to do the work, but you can work with us, and And we can make that all, I'd like a bigger picture that was available for all the towns if that's possible, but I don't know if all the other towns feel that way. I just want that discussion to get started if we could.
Yeah, and Brian, honestly, you may be a perfect candidate since you haven't had internet access, so you're going to be kind of starting things up from scratch. And certainly you and I should have a conversation about what that could look like to bring you right on. In terms of the other towns, absolutely, it's a conversation I'm looking to have. I don't believe that the towns would be able to ride on the county cybersecurity policy. I think you'll still have to have your own, but certainly having some conversation, taking a look at your systems and what would be involved for you to meet those requirements, whether they're on the county systems or not, is certainly something we could do. In terms of the shared services, I'm absolutely on board. I just don't think it's going to ramp up quick enough to be able to help people this year. I'm hoping this year we can make some good progress, and possibly for somebody like you that doesn't have a lot of systems in place, I'd be happy to talk to you about what you do have, and we can look at what that would look like. But certainly, I think there's a lot of options, and I'm very open to talking to anybody that would like to talk about it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I know Salem's in the same boat as Hebron, and I'm sure there's other towns too that could benefit from some expertise other than our banded meetings that we tend to do. So thank you, Terry.
I'll be honest, I was just very blown away by the requirements to even have a policy, to even be eligible for a policy. It's just nothing like it's ever been. I think they're not wanting to give small businesses policies because it's going to be very difficult for small organizations to meet the requirements, honestly. So.
Okay.
And
the next on the agenda.
Sorry, that's all I have for cybersecurity, and now I have some regular tech stuff. So
wonderful, thank you. So project updates.
Yep. So for the project updates, I did send out the report for project updates. We've actually made some really good headway, and a bunch of these projects are going to be dropping off after this month. So they're not quite finished, so I didn't want to drop them off yet, but I don't know if anybody has any questions on the projects that are on the report.
Do you have any questions? No?
Okay.
All good?
Okay. So if not, I'd like to introduce a new report to the committee. So I know we've talked in the past about projects and project updates, and I guess I felt for some time like it was, although we do projects, and projects certainly are a big part of what we do in IT, it's not the only thing we do in IT, and the help desk work and helping everyday people is something we do a lot of. And so I wanted to try to bring to the board another viewpoint of the IT department, and I'd like to know if this is something you're interested in. I can continue it. If it's not, then we don't have to. But I thought that it would give you a picture of what we do each month and where we're spending a lot of our time. So the report that that's been sent out to you folks is the tickets completed. So these are all trouble tickets. So every time we do a work for people, we have tickets that they have to submit. And then these are all the tickets that have been completed during the month of September. So I went for the previous month, so we would have a full month picture since the meetings are going to be on different days. And so this gives a breakdown by number of hours and percentage of overall tickets, what the help desk has been working on during this month. So this does not include the big projects. We don't have all the big projects yet tracked in a way that I can easily pull it out along with the tickets. So I guess I don't know if you have had any chance to review it or if you have any thoughts or any questions on whether this type of a report might be valuable. It is broken down by department, so you can see a little bit about where we're spending a lot of our time. And you can review it and let me know next month if you prefer.
I know I haven't had a chance to see it. Terry, I'm not sure if there's other people that have not seen it. But the help desk certainly has been used by the town of Salem, and we appreciate you being there, whether it is access or passwords or whatever. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Other people
Okay,
feel the same way.
Yeah, so maybe we can, you folks could take a look at it, and then next month we could bring it back up again and see if it's a report that you'd like to continue to see going forward. But I was just trying to find a way to better reflect, from an IT department, give you some sort of a measurable result of what we're doing each month. So moving on, aside from the reports, the next thing that I'd like to talk about is the camera system. So we have the camera system in the budget for this year. We have spent a lot of time between IT, public safety, and the safety officer working with the vendors to be able to provide a mapped layout of the placement of all the cameras. From an IT perspective, although we can provide the platform, I really believe that it's a bigger county decision, especially where it comes to public safety and safety as to the placement of the cameras and where they should be. So it's been a real joint effort that we've been working on. We have explored many different systems, from internal-based systems where we provide the storage and the platform to cloud hosted systems. We've decided on the vendor that we'd like to go with. The budget that we had for this year, we had $65,000 in the budget to do the entire camera system that we'd like to do, which gives us full placement of all the cameras outside, especially, which is where we're really lacking right now, would come in at a total of $80,000. So it's slightly over. I don't need to ask you for more money today. We actually have money, but the money that we have is in a 0.4 account that we need to ask to be moved over to a 0.2 account. It's from a cybersecurity purchase that we actually, through Karen's hard work, have the grant that's covered that cybersecurity purchase. And so that $15,000 would cover the additional cost of the cameras if we could have the money moved over. So that's what I'd like to request today, and see if anybody has any questions on that.
I'll leave that to finance, and we'll take that up.
Okay, and do we have a second for that? Brian's not on the committee.
Oh, that's 2 days in a row. Not again.
Thank you, Deb.
I knew I shouldn't have been early today.
Now,
I'll make a motion to move it.
Now, one question I have is, because it's just a movement from a 0.4 to a 0.2, would it have to go to finance before we place the order? Because to get the discount that I've negotiated, I have to purchase it before the end of October. Otherwise, I may lose the discount that I've negotiated.
Al was shaking his head.
Well,
Yeah.
we have finance in a couple of hours.
Yeah, we have finance this afternoon. Go ahead.
I also had a question, Terry. Due to the price, you said it would be about $80,000 for the purchase of the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So have you had a conversation with purchasing as far as this having to go out to bid?
That's my question.
It's on contract.
Big contract.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Chairman.
Go ahead.
So to accommodate the purchase and not lose the discount, what we can do is we can authorize Terry to cut the PO and overdraw the 0.2 account with the resolution pending. We can do that if the board wants to support that action. Or we can do it later today, either one. Well, you still need a full board. Right, that's true. We still can't do it to a full board. Right. So, but we can do it with an understanding that we authorize Terry to overdraw the account with the resolution pending. You can, if you want to pick that path, you can do that. You would do that at finance later today if you wanted to authorize it.
So Paul has that motion on the table, I believe, Paul?
Yeah, in conjunction with what Al said.
Okay.
Can I, one follow-up?
Yep.
Terry, the money that you're moving, because right now you pay for the cybersecurity stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, we've already.
We're going to
Right.
credit that account back to that expense. This is coming out of a different account.
That's correct. Yeah, the initial purchase was made out of the 4021 account, and the purchase for the cameras would come out of the 2020.
Okay, great, thanks.
So, I think we're looking for a second at this point. And on the committee.
You had your hand up. Yeah, I know. But she didn't see it, so it didn't count. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Dan, that's what happens. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, discussion.
Discussion?
I'm just responding to the, okay, yes, vote. Okay.
Any nays?
I'm a follower.
Okay, so thank you, Terry, for walking us through that.
Well, thank you all very much. I don't
I just,
have any,
I'd like to, have you guys move to our regular finance. Terry removed the $308,500 from next year's budget, and so I want this to go to regular finance when we meet in November. To move that money in this year's, she's got the money in this year's budget to actually buy stuff, or, no. We're gonna buy it out of contingency to remove it from next year's budget. So I just want it moved to a regular finance, so we can have the discussion there, so we go through the right channels, if that's the possibility.
Am I supposed to understand that? Yeah.
So at the end of every year, when we're working on the budget, we try to find ways to not have money in next year's budget. We try to keep under the cap and all those things. So Terry came through with things that she has in next year's budget that she can buy in November and December that she probably wouldn't even end up with until January, but you buy them through the purchase order, and the contingency is over $400,000 and some odd thousand. She has $308,500 worth of stuff she can take out and do at the end of the year, so it's not next year's budget. So I was in hopes that IT would do it now. We could do it in December too, but I was just hoping that we could have that discussion in November as we're doing the budget discussion. So I wanted to move that forward.
So Brian is not a member of this committee, so somebody else
Right, I
might
am.
have to move this forward.
Can I ask him a question?
Sure. Yes, please.
Contingency.
Yes.
IT contingency, general contingency.
General
Account
contingency, general fund contingency.
General contingency. So take it from four something down to $300.
Yeah, you'll have 100 and something left when we get all done.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay. Somebody want to make this motion?
I'll make a motion to move it.
To move it to finance?
It'll be regular finance, however.
Send to finance.
So Paul has made the motion to move this, to finance, and Matt seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And Terry, there's nothing else to add to that after that discussion?
no, I don't think so. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very, very much for everything. Great. Anyways,
Thank you.
any other business? And if not, I think we can adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Mhm. Yep, no other business.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this meeting is adjourned. Let's go straight into all the other ones to order. So at this point, we're going to call the Human Services to order. And we're going to start with to accept the minutes of October 27th. AJ moves to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
Darrell seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, so, Dina, we're going to continue the conversation on the vehicle.
I'm listening.
Would everyone like to know who's on this committee? Would this be helpful? Okay, so we have myself, Brian, Matt, Jay, Paul, Don, and Darrell. Okay?
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Gina.
As shared at the previous committee meeting, my intention today is to give you an update on the vehicle purchase. Again, the money that we're setting aside for the purchase of vehicles is the American Rescue Fund. dollars, and right now, according to our budget, we're looking to allocate approximately $200,000 for the purchase of vehicles. And looking at our fleet, right now, Office for Aging has 9 vehicles assigned, and to cover the route at this point in time, we're borrowing 3 vehicles from Carpool. So at this particular time, our hope is to work with DPW on obtaining bids for our nutrition fleet. And the focus of the bids are going to be on mid-sized vehicles, again, noting that some primary characteristics of the vehicles is like keyless entry, some ground clearance, and most certainly vehicles with all-wheel drive capability. Our hope is to get bids in the area of both gas and hybrid models, and then once those bids are received, then I can present them to you for a decision. So again, our hope is to really make our fleet and nutrition services complete without having to borrow the carpool vehicles. We will be working closely with DPW to look at our existing fleet and having them help in the decision of, choosing which vehicles to remove from our
Next.
Is that something we actually have to go out to bid, or are there state contracts or those kind of things that you could refer to say, state has a contract for this kind of vehicle, this kind of price, that gives you an idea where you fall on the, how is that purchasing?
DPW, would go out for their mini bid. They have done some research, so far, just to kind of get price, estimates on some of the vehicles that possibly would work best for, Office for the Aging. I guess I would be looking for a little bit of discussion as far as where I'm wondering if these vehicles that are purchased are going to end up in carpool at some point. The DPW superintendent usually, when she works with the department heads to look into vehicles, looks for vehicles, if they're going to end up in carpool, that best suit the needs of carpool as well as the department that's going to be using them to start with. So I guess I don't know if these vehicles that are being purchased, if they would be purchased just for OFA and would stay in OFA for the life of the vehicle. If that is so, I'm assuming there's also probably some special needs for these vehicles. I don't know if sliding doors, or because you're putting ovens in the vehicles as well as with the food, I don't know if accommodations have to be made. I believe most of the vehicles that you use, Gina, I could be wrong, the seats are taken out of the vehicles to make room for the ovens.
So, right now, the majority of our fleet are the caravan models. As far as, sliding doors or removing seats, that's not necessarily needed. We do have equipment that we're using. As I shared, we're looking towards more heated bags. When you speak of ovens, this was I want to say decades ago, when we had an old-style oven that was kind of the metal device that fits in the vehicle, and then it is connected to the battery of the vehicle itself. We're kind of moving slowly away from those because we're finding that the newer updated equipment, which would be like a large heated bag that also plugs into the vehicle through the adapter, works just as efficiently. So the staff necessarily, so the equipment isn't that large to necessarily need the removal of seats per se. The vehicles that we were considering in talking this through with DPW were more of a mid-sized vehicle. We weren't necessarily looking at minivans where you had to remove seats, and we weren't necessarily looking at sliding doors as well. In a particular route, I think at this time, to give you an approximate service of meals, they could be 30 or 40 meals that are being delivered out of the vehicle, and a single driver. So you have the front seat, the back seat, that are used primarily and are sufficiently working to hold the equipment that we use.
I'm not sure to answer my question was from a procurement standpoint. Is there state contracts for the things that Dina's looking for, or other county bids that we can piggyback off of?
I believe
We have to
DPW
reinvent the wheel and go out to do this stuff, or are we
No,
on our own?
DPW can do mini bids and they can go off state contracts. It just, from what we did in the past, earlier this year, it does help to kind of know what kind of vehicle you're looking for. You know, even if we can clarify, I think Gina just said she's not looking for a van type vehicle, but wants something that's all-wheel drive. So that's basically putting us in the SUV type of category, I believe. Is that right, Gina? Is that?
So the definition of SUV gets a little gray. So we, mid-sized vehicles, would be something like an Equinox or a, Trailblazer per se, to give an examples of the size vehicles. Just a reminder too, that we do complete our routes using focuses. So when you're talking about the size of the vehicle, we're making Ford Focus work. But the issue with the Ford Focuses is most certainly not having the all-wheel drive capabilities, and don't have to essentially. It's a factor for us.
Yeah, Gina, I'm sorry, you might have already answered this, but I'm having a hard time hearing you with your face mask on. You said $200,000 is budgeted, and how many vehicles were you interested in getting?
Well, that is truly based on the bids that come in. So most certainly,
in other words, if they come in lower, you're gonna buy more?
Correct.
6 to 9, right?
Yes, because at this particular time.
6 to 9.
6 to 9? Oh, so that replaces the whole fleet, 6 to 9, or 9 does, right? Didn't you say 9 is what you?
No, she's
So at this particular time, we're operating with 10 vehicles Monday through Thursday and 11 vehicles on Friday with an additional route that we offer.
And 3 are out of carpool?
Yes, so we would like to just most certainly, with that 200,000, buy as many vehicles as we can.
And is part of this reimbursable, is it through the state, like?
100% federal. 100%.
So it's 100% federal money. And, Melissa, what is it like, over in social services where after 3 years it can come into carpool?
And I think that's one of the questions that, the superintendent of public works had, not knowing if that was the intention of these vehicles to eventually end up in carpool, or if they were something that were gonna stay in the department in that fleet until they're no longer usable, because this is one-time funding, I believe.
Oh, it's only one-time
So that's the
funding,
difference
it's
between
not-
what happens in.
Okay.
That is correct. Typically in the past, we've received kind of like when cars are ready on their, being moved out of carpools, and they tend to kind of slide over into nutrition. Right now, our Office for Aging budget is so tight that we wouldn't be able to we don't have the type of reimbursement that DSS has to come up with a plan for a rotational, 3-year period.
Well, to follow up with that, the ones you presently have, are they in good enough shape they can roll over to carpool? Or are they
roll over. They can just roll over.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, they're good enough shape.
No, it is not.
We lost them. They're auctioned out.
Okay.
That again will go to the expertise of DPW.
The majority of their cars are 2008, actually, yes. There's a 2007, 3 2008, a 2009, 2012, and then one 2014.
Yes, Brian?
This is gonna take a huge discussion, folks. This is different than just where we are right now. So I'm gonna say, this is gonna be mentioned in the budget message. To me, carpool is the biggest thing we're gonna have to look at next year for numerous reasons. Price of vehicles, like Matt Hicks mentioned, can you just go and find a price? Well, the worst part was I have one of those sites I can go to, and you can put in all the things you want, and it'll tell you the price. Right now, that's equal to the MSRP. It's not even a reduction because of how, the car problem with shortage. So I think there's other ways. I think the bidding stuff might get you better, but you have no idea when they're coming in. In Gina's situation, where her problem is, they're up around 100,000 meals a year to the most vulnerable population in our county. I would hope that we would find a way to restructure carpool that both OFA and DSS, even though OFA doesn't have the funding like DSS has, maybe we can do it out of general fund, that we have 3 cars coming in there all the time, just like DSS does, and then they come to carpool, because our carpool doesn't need a brand new car all the time. But you know what? Our most vulnerable population needs their food delivered. I guess that's a philosophical thing, and at the same time, we have to change our policy even to get our cars back from DSS. We've never changed our depreciation schedule or whatever, so we have to move that to 3 years so those cars can come back from DSS to carpool. But I think we should handle this the same way and find a way to purchase those cars. You know, we might not have to buy any OFA cars for a year or two, but if she can only replace 6, maybe we start right away, the following year. And I think one thing that Gina doesn't realize yet, we've had this discussion, a lot changed since the last meeting. There is a match to that money that we weren't aware of at the time Gina brought it out, about 31,000 something. I've got that in the budget for next year's budget. So at the same time, you have to increase the total number. So she's going to come away with like 231,000 something on that line to buy cars. So that's a little bit of an update of where we're at. But in all honesty, carpool is going to have to be, the mileage rate's probably going to have to be different because the price of cars is probably going to be a lot different. And we know the price of fuel is already different. So there's a lot of things that are in, but I would think it would be smarter to get 3 good years out of them when they're new to the most vulnerable population, and then to bring them back to carpool. And our carpool would always be funded with 3-year cars, and then we decide whether they when and where they leave, not leave them in OFA until they're 20 years old. I think that's just plain wrong, and it puts us in a bad spot for our elderly. That's just my 2 cents.
We had tasked Gina to bring us back the information at the last meeting so that we could make a determination. Should we have a motion and send this to finance so that we can continue it?
Carpool, wherever, it might go to, this might go to DPW, carpool.
Go DPW?
So this is gonna be for the 2022 budget.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so we don't have to, that's the
Next year's budget.
So,
Right, 30 in next
Okay.
year's budget.
yes.
Thank you. I remember to talk about how quickly this, or not, this has to be done.
We were deciding that, so.
Well, we should have discussion in any committee with this.
Yeah.
Did you find out if there's any strings on how long you have to keep them, to go back to Melissa's question? I mean, whether or not we put them in carpool is determined whether you can. I mean, you might have to retain these for a certain length of time. With the federal money might have strings on it that are different than a normal purchase.
We are not aware of any strings attached to a time frame.
To how long you have to keep them.
Correct.
Okay.
2 days just in case. So we know. It's awful to find out after that. But yeah, just, if you can find out, just make sure. So Deb Downey has had her hand up for one.
Okay, thank you. I don't even see it on here. Deb, go ahead and talk, please.
I just wanted to point out that if we're going to decide which cars that we're going to use, Phil and our department and Gina's department all got together and we analyzed what would be best for them. So we would have to revisit that before we decided on which cars. I didn't know if you were going to do that today. So I just wanted to point out that we wanted to give that a shot first so that they weren't bending over. Right, Gina? We want to make the most ergonomically decision for it.
Matt?
I seem to be a little dense on the subject here today, so you made a very good point that these need to be addressed pretty quick because she has a vulnerable population and these cars are 10 and 12, 15 years old.
That's a bad job.
And it's in 2022's budget, right?
To get that,
To get going. Realistically, if you waited to do this and you ordered them in January or February of 2022, they may not get them till middle of 2023, who knows, right? That gives you experience, man. Yeah, exactly. That's a year and a half of waiting around.
I tried this back in April, remember, and I got shut down, so let's not go there.
I'm going there. I'm going there. I'm again on procurement. What options do we have from procurement policy to say, this money's available, how can we solve this problem? And not screw up our procurement policy. Say, can we find a place in January where we can pay for 6 cars to get Gina's vehicle she needs to get this program going without violating what we're supposed to be doing? You know, if in the meantime, Deb and Gina come to a conclusion that they want Model X, how do we acquire those Model X's? Because if it goes out to bid and somebody in Syracuse gets the bid and it's the lowest bid and it's great and then you gotta wait 2 years for the car, what good is it?
But that's gonna happen, we can't change that. If they're either available or they're not. We have VIN numbers for the Trailblazers and they're not here.
Is there a
So
measure one?
how can we solve that problem? To say, we know that she wants Model X and we can buy 6 Model X's from 6 different dealers all within 2 hours a year by spending the money and doing that and getting them in and getting them going. Are we violating the Fed money? Are we violating our procurement policy? I don't want to follow the rules and then 2 years from now, Gina's saying 6 of the cars are broken down and I can't get the meals out the door. You know, I don't know what our options are.
Yeah.
Listen, sorry, Matt, but just to ask a different way, is there a way the bid can be written that the delivery has to be guaranteed within 60 days of, I mean, that way you're only going to get bids from people who have them in stock. Is there a way to
Bid
write
for 6, bid for 1.
Right, is there a way to write the bid so that they have to guarantee delivery?
You know what that does for the price?
Can we,
I'm asking.
so you pay more, but you get them a year and a half earlier to serve the people? Is that
No,
the trade-off?
I don't think you're gonna get them a year and a half earlier.
If they're sitting on a lot, they are. I don't know the options here, I'm just throwing this out to see if there's something we can do to try to solve the problem.
And there's some 21 over that you could have access to right now. I mean,
Try that.
So the best to my knowledge, I believe that we can put that in there, you know,
I'm
within
thinking
60
back
days.
how somebody's already bid this somehow. Is there a state bid somewhere, somehow that we can jump on? And I don't know.
Deb, if you're still on and can hear me, to my recollection, DPW usually puts out a mini bid for the purchase of vehicles.
Yes.
they're pretty quick turnaround. They're decent.
And you can check a box that says they need to be available, or there is a way to do that.
And we can look into piggybacking as well if we determine what vehicle we're looking for.
But it really helps to know the type of vehicle we're looking for, narrowing it down as much as possible, right? To be able to get.
Yes. Yep.
Like what Matt says, if we know we need X vehicle and there's a state bid out there, and we go to, say it's a Ford something, we go to Carmody and they've got 3, can we then go down to Hanesford, get 3 more and something like that, as long as they're on the state bid. I think that's what Matt's saying, instead of trying to grab a group of 6, which may be very tough to do from one dealership.
Just wondering the options, that's all.
Yeah, that's all I think.
Because if we follow the procedure, it could be 2023 before she sees the vehicle, which is, I get the impression, sort of unacceptable, right?
Not great.
It's not great. Just wondering.
We'll look into that to see if what we can figure out for speed efficiency.
Thank you.
And we're realistically probably looking at 5 or 6.
Probably, because the price so far from what DPW came up with, the vehicles run anywhere from 23,000 to up to 39,000 each, from what I can tell.
23,000, you're probably not going to see that for this person.
You're gonna be watching these.
Right, probably not.
Yes.
So is this a subject then that DPW would be bringing to a future committee to discuss the purchase? Is that where this would go next? And probably not right away, right? Probably.
It could be in carpool, it could be the next DPW, and that way we can come here the following day, and that way you get to hash it over twice. For anything you missed the day before, it's not a bad idea.
Well, if we do it in DPW, then the next finance would be December, correct?
Yeah, can we wait a month? Do this? Does it need a month to get the information?
Oh, no, Deb can get all that on her own, she's got permission to do that at any time.
Now,
Yeah. Deb can do all that.
It comes in November finance, that's it.
She can come to November finance, yes. Want to do it quicker.
Now, once the
Okay,
discussion takes place about the type of vehicle that best suits the needs, like Deb had mentioned, the safety officer being involved, meeting with Gina, meeting and including Deb, once that conversation takes place and they decide on the vehicle that they feel is best suited for that department, should that come back to the Health and Human Services? Do you want to discuss that further before it goes to DPW, or just let it go to DPW?
I thought it go to finance.
Well, we're gonna go straight to finance in November, the way you're talking, which is fine.
I just think that's.
But even then, if you put it out the bids don't come back till December. And if you get the bid in December, you can accept it in January, so it's in the new budget, or you can move fund balance for a temporary time, or whatever you gotta do. I mean, it's all doable, it's just whether the cars are available. We've been down this road a dozen times, and you're seeing it in Granville right now. I mean, it's the same situation, but I don't know, unless they're on the lot, and that's where I tried to go the last time, was ones were on the lot, and they were available, but by the time we got around to do anything, they were gone. So that's just the way it works. If you don't move fast enough, and you're either at the front of the line now, or you go without. That's with funding in or vehicles, both.
So I
guess my point is that Gina and Deb come to a conclusion of what they want. Why wait a month to come back here to tell us what they want? And we're all gonna go, okay,
Right.
all right, yeah, let's do that. Then a month's gone by. Tell us what they want between now and finance. Do it.
Thank you. Deb?
so we can reach a conclusion on the vehicle, and we can research what is out there and what is available and what our options are, and bring it to finance in November, if that's what you want.
That's what we want.
Okay, do we have a motion
Okay.
saying that?
So
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Deb.
So, public health, I see Joe on here. Kathy Joe, are you on?
Gina's a.
Christina? Christine, is Tina on here?
she's there, smiling.
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Tina.
Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to see you.
You too. So the first thing I have, we currently have an agreement right now with Cambridge Valley Rescue Squad to assist us at our COVID vaccination clinics. We'd like to add to that agreement for them to receive funding for testing. They've currently been doing rapid testing for people in the southern part of the county. They've been doing it for quite a while now. Their funding that they had through a previous grant is exhausted. So they came to us a few weeks ago asking if we would have funding available to provide to them to continue the testing program. We do have funding available and it is an acceptable expense in our grant. It's our immunization grant and also one of our COVID grants. So I'd like to request to amend that agreement with them to also include testing. It's a rapid test that they do, and it would include testing for anyone who lives in the county or works or goes to school in the county. We have $35,600 available within one of our grant, or it's actually spread through a couple of our grants to be able to reimburse them funding and to also still cover all of our COVID expenses as well. We've done up an analysis of how we would reimburse them, and it would be $37 per test that they would bill us per test, and that would include all of their costs associated with the testing, including their personnel. It has to be a paramedic or an advanced EMT that's doing the testing, and it would also include their supplies. So it'd be all inclusive. It'd be the $37, and it would be up to a maximum amount of $35,600, and they're doing about an average of 14 tests a week for people that, like I said, either work or go to school or reside in our county. So I'm just looking for approval to amend that agreement with them to give them some funding for the testing they're doing within our county.
Brian moves it, Jay seconds. All in favor?
Second. Aye.
I'm sorry. Discussion?
My screen went down, I'm sorry. Is she requesting a waiver?
Yeah,
Yes.
Did you
So-
have something?
yeah, waiver has to be part of that
Yes.
motion.
Yes, please. Yes, Daryl.
Sounds good.
Brian, you want to amend your motion?
Then I'll make that vote with the waiver.
And do we
I'll
have a
second
for
that.
Thanks, Daryl and Jay. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The second item on the agenda is the Clia license renewal. This is our limited service laboratory license that we have to reapply for each year. It's $200 to reapply, and it gives us the ability to do our blood lead level testing, hemoglobin testing through our WIC program. And also, we haven't done this in a while, but it also does give us the ability to do HIV rapid testing here in the office. So it's a license, like I said, that we have to renew every year. And Dr. Guerra also has to sign off on that. So just requesting permission to pay that fee of the $200. And each year we have to request the treasurer to cut us a petty cash check in order to pay that fee for the license.
Jay moves it. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Tina.
The next item, we had both of our, in our WIC program, we have a senior breastfeeding peer counselor and also a breastfeeding peer counselor, two different positions. Both of them have resigned in the last couple of weeks. So we're requesting to actually backfill the breastfeeding peer counselor and then also change the senior breastfeeding peer counselor back to just a regular breastfeeding peer counselor. So it would be a change in our staffing pattern to eliminate the senior and add an additional breastfeeding peer counselor. So looking to change the staffing pattern and also fill both of those positions. So just looking for permission to do that.
So do we need a motion to change the staffing pattern?
With the finance office of the full board. Or excuse me, personnel.
I was gonna say, I thought it was.
Quick question on that, I was
Sure.
looking through the paperwork there for personnel. Are those jobs up to minimum wage payment? They were 13 something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, was that a question on the minimum wage?
I think we got the answer, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so Brian, you just moved it.
I'll move it personnel, yep.
Okay. And do we have a second to move it? Jay, all in favor, or any discussion first? Okay. And
And
do
the
we-
next, sorry.
But we need a motion to backfill and move that to finance?
It'll go to personnel.
Or to
Yeah.
personnel? So Tina?
Okay. The next item is we received the early intervention administrative grant and it has been executed. So we're just requesting a resolution to add that to our 2021 budget. The total amount is $38,779. And again, that's for our early intervention administrative expenses.
Brian moved it, and do we have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Daryl. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Gonna keep it going. Any miscellaneous?
Yes, I do have one item under miscellaneous. We would like to join in with Warren County on a media campaign to promote the COVID vaccination rates within our counties. Behan Communications has offered to develop the messaging, free of charge. So we would just be paying for the actual advertisements from different venues, the papers within our county, billboards, radio ads. They've talked about doing messaging outside of the Civic Center, doing things at the hockey games, up on the big board at the hockey games, things of that nature. We did take a look at our grants. There is money specifically in our grants that we have to use for vaccine promotion and for media advertising to increase our vaccination rates. So we do have about $18,000 set aside within our grants in order to do that. So I'm looking for permission to go ahead with that media campaign. It would be using the county logo, on those campaigns. So I do believe that does need your permission to do that. I don't have individual, items right now to bring to you because they're still developing, the messages and, what media outlets we're going to be using. We do have another meeting this afternoon with Warren County and with Behan Communications, where they're going to, give us some more ideas, and go over the messaging. So just looking for approval to move forward on that. And again, we have about $18,000 within our grants to use for vaccination promotion.
Thank you, Tina. I think Daryl has a question.
Well, what I'd like to do is, Madam Chairman, is I'll make the motion to grant that approval to move forward, and then I do have a question during discussion.
Okay. Do we have a second on Daryl's motion?
I'll second it just because I want to hear Daryl's discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Okay, go back to you, Daryl.
So Tina, question on the logos and stuff. Are we splitting costs? Is Warren County, are we doing this collectively as a group? Are we pooling resources, or are we just, what I'm saying is, we'll compete for advertisement space and we'll be hitting the same. We want to just make sure that do you have a strategy by which, okay, if Warren County does these things, Washington County will do these things, you kind of spread our bang for our buck over the different types of venues and audiences that we're hoping to target.
Yes, that's our plan, is to spread out those expenses. Warren County obviously has a different amount of money that they can set aside. They haven't really, said what their dollar amount will be. We just kind of took a look at our grants and made sure that our expenses here would be covered, before we give them an amount, a maximum dollar amount that we would be able to contribute. Obviously, the papers within our county, the messaging will be the same, but we'll be paying for the papers and things like that within our county. So it'll be separate invoicing. We won't be reimbursing Warren County. They won't be paying for things and then we'll be reimbursing them. We'll have our own individual invoices that we'll receive for the marketing that's done, for us.
And in terms of logo, you'll be promoting this as the Office of Public Health, Washington County.
Yep, it's the Washington County logo.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Tina, just out of curiosity, is that like, you just pay the $18,000 right up front and then you have oversight on how it's going to be distributed and where?
Nope. The $18,000 was just an amount that we determined that we would be able to spend on advertising. It's going to be piecemeal depending on, who we're using for the media outlet. So it could be money that was paid to a radio station or a newspaper or the Civic Center. It's all going to be piecemeal. It's not going to be the $18,000 going out at once.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? So all in favor of Tina going forward on this?
Aye.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
Very much. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Tammy, you ready? Okay, the computer's down. We have to do what? I can't get it in. You gotta be kidding. I got bounced out. My right arm's gone. Good morning, everyone. We'll be fine. Good morning. Hi, I got backfill request.
I say good morning, they're all talking, I'm paying
Yeah,
attention to you,
well,
Tammy.
I'm gonna look right at you through this
Okay.
entire presentation.
There we go. Good.
Good morning. Melissa's getting hooked back up. Okay. No pressure, Melissa. Sorry. What?
Good looking man.
So do you want me to wait for Melissa? I think she's okay.
Oh, no, go ahead.
She's
Sorry.
a multitasker.
Okay. I'd like to start out with some backfill requests. So we have two different clerk vacancies. And just as a general rule, I have shared with you in the past that we have held positions and not filled them throughout the period of the pandemic. There certainly have been that has been the case. Some of these positions, however, because we have multiple, we have titles that we have multiple people in. The way that it works with personnel is that they prefer that when we come to you with an actual description of an opening, that it be the oldest one in that title. However, I might be asking for it because we just had somebody resign in that title, but we have had openings. So in some cases, I don't want it to appear as if I'm saying to you, we've gone without this forever. And in reality, we just had a vacancy, but that's just how it cycles through. We have kept vacancies, but there are certainly titles where we're asking immediately for backfill. Disclosure, because it doesn't feel right to me to constantly say, we've been without this forever, when I know that somebody's just leaving us. So we do have two clerk vacancies that we would like to have filled. All of these have been reviewed with Danielle as well.
Moving this to personnel.
Do you have a second? Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I also have two social services examiner positions that we'd like to fill.
Is one or two?
Two. It's been updated since the agenda was submitted.
Okay, so Brian made a motion to go to personnel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very much. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And the next one's a doozy. This is a request for a backfill for a social services division director. And that position will be vacant at the end of December, but I do need time to move ahead and work on getting somebody selected for that, and hopefully having some time for them to spend shadowing the current director.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then we very recently had received a resignation in the title of community services worker. This is a position that does transportation for us, and also that time was working at the call center at the ADRC.
Move it. And do we have a second? Okay, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then moving forward on the agenda, I have some funding updates to share with you. We received notice, I
ironically, I have two things I want to share with you, and notice on both of them were dated October 15th. So the first one is the Medicaid weekly share. We received notice on October 15th that the weekly Medicaid payment will be adjusted starting in November. The adjustment is due to the Families First Coronavirus Response Act enhanced federal medical assistance percentage funding. And the new payment amount is going to be reduced by $23,000 a week. So the overall savings for this adjustment through the end of the state fiscal year is $441,000. New weekly payment amount is $170,351. Also received the same day was notification that Washington County was being provided with an allocation of $43,350 for the continued safe harbor programming, and that's something that we had known when we first started this was time limited, but they have continued to support our programming, and that be well beyond the number of years they originally had said that they would. So it will continue to offset the cost of the county of providing services to sexually exploited children and the diversionary services for those that are at risk of exploitation. The Safe Harbor Coordinator is an employee in the Bureau.
Those are 1 year, Sam?
Pardon me?
1 more year?
They're 1 year at a time.
Okay.
Yes. And a couple of miscellaneous items, if I could. Through my role in the statewide Public Welfare Association, I have been afforded the opportunity, and I use that term somewhat lightly, to meet with the Division of Budget on an annual basis to speak with them about funding priorities as they move into scheduling their next planned budget release. So we actually had that meeting yesterday afternoon. Wanted to let you know that the association expressed we really limited it to key priorities. We had a half an hour, so our key priorities were that we want the state to focus on supporting stable housing and the lack of their participation in the services that are provided to the safety net population. Those two things tie out pretty closely together. But frankly, a lot of our homeless are people that are only eligible for safety net, and that is largely funded through the county, and the state does not provide any administrative funding for services that are provided to safety net. So at this point, the state has, OTDA has moved forward proposed regulations related to the use of hotels and motels for temporary housing assistance, and it would create many more mandates and be extremely burdensome to us if it were to go in the way that it is proposed as, and our association has put a lot of pressure and given a lot of feedback on that, so we wanted to make sure that the Division of Budget was also aware that that would be a big issue for us. The other key priority area is the fact that we want to impress upon them that we continue to need open-ended funding for preventive services. We continue to ask them to restore it to the level that they once provided the funding, which was 65% rather than the current 62%. I thought it was funny when we were wrapping up the conversation. One of the things that was shared when we asked about initiatives for the budget, I had a quote here, "It's early. We need to go through the process before we know where we're going to end." Well, indeed.
If you don't know where you're going anyway.
But they said it was good that we were there early. Also, when we met last month and reviewed the budget, I had talked about computer purchases. Something had been unforeseen and unplanned as far as the need to very quickly replace some of our older generation iPads, as well as knowing that we were going to, over time, need to add in or replace more of our laptops and desktops. We did work on that together over the course of the last month with Terry McNall, and also consulting with the budget officer and the county administrator, and we've been able to put in orders now for everything that we will need so that everyone within our department has, within the last 3 years, had their technology replaced, out of the 2021 allocation. So that did also then reduce what we were asking for 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy, I think we missed something though. Yep, I got it. Okay. I wanted to get the quicker things in first. Thank you. So we had talked in the past, part of the, American Rescue Plan funding that went to the county, part of that was designated, by the work group to fund foster care and child care. And that funding has been set aside and earmarked within the contingency fund. I worked on a plan for how we could go about spending that. I'm not going to say that it's draft, but it is certainly extremely fluid. I have it in hard copy here for you. I did not have it prepared in time or think ahead to send it to the folks that are attending virtually. So I'm not sure how you would like us to go about this. If you want me to submit it to you for your review and questions perhaps next month, or if you want to go over it now, knowing that I can give you present in this room hard copies. Does anyone have any, I would like you to review it, okay, and then we can send out hard copies by email to everyone, so you would have it, unless there's a different opinion.
The fluid draft.
It is not draft, I said, I'm not gonna call it draft.
I don't like draft or fluid.
The way this started, I thought you would have given Matt his words.
Thank you.
No. So again, I am sorry that it is not something that's been provided with enough advance to have it. To the board members that are not present in the room, it is something I can certainly email to return to my office. The project budget that was earmarked was $288,160. The requirement that, as I read it and understand for the ERA fund, is that the plan must be finalized by the end of 2024 and sent out by 2026. The working group defined the project objective as make an investment in outreach, recruitment, and training for foster care services, encourage new business development in the area of child care, allowing individuals to enter or re-enter the workforce by providing outreach and training for regulated home day care. This goes hand in hand with the other concepts that we talked about. We discussed a number of times about the need for more foster homes and about the department's decision and request to return toward the model of recruiting our own foster homes and certifying them. We are underway with staffing for that at this time with the approval of the board from previous meetings. So I try to encompass within a chart some of the items and more globally some of the descriptions of what I foresee we would want to use the funding for, and just a shot in the dark of what that value might be as it relates to one of the items on here. You'll see where I have this third line down is trainer advisor, and I've described that as a certified MAP trainer. MAP is an acronym for Model Approach to Parenting and Partnership, or Partnership and Parenting, which is what the state designates as being the appropriate curriculum for foster parents in New York State. And then strategic planning advisor. We have had trained trainers in the past that have been employees of Washington County DSS, and I would like to be able to look at having them back, because at this point, we don't have any other trainers on staff, and the training for that is not available at this point on the schedule that we can see from the state either. So I want to be able to utilize that we have had trained in the past, and also utilize them to work with the newly hired, the newly promoted people in this unit to work on some strategy of how we would move forward and work on our outreach and work towards training and getting the word out and retaining those families. So that is something that has been discussed in some lengths with county admin as well as personnel. And at this point, working with Danielle, we found some similar type titles in the grade schedule, and looking towards getting a title for that, and it would be a position that we would have on an hourly basis. So I'm not sure if you want to go on further on that, Melissa.
So in our discussions, we're talking about one possibility of having, or creating a new title, right? And having it be a part-time or per diem position where you could have these trainers come back in, do the training, and just use them as needed, right? And then there was going to be further discussion as far as what the actual duties were, and see how far it has to go into the civil service as far as classifying it, if it's going to be more than just a temporary position, and then placed on the grade schedule, determining a rate of pay for that position as well.
Yes,
We've begun the discussion.
I have a new position duty statement that I need to complete at this point. I foresee it as being a need for probably the next 2 years, I would say, at least, depending on how quickly we can get our current staff trained. But once we have them, I want us to be pretty nimble in our ability to provide training when somebody says that they're interested in becoming a foster parent. So it may be that I would need to utilize additional people outside of our current staff to provide training to foster parents moving forward for a period of time. If we do receive the swell of interest that I'm hoping for, prior to looking at that process, the way that we historically rolled out training when we were recruiting our own foster homes was that we would run the cycle of foster parent training twice a year. So if we had interest from someone expressed to us, it might have been months before they were actually able to start a training. And it just is the best way, I think, to really capture their interest and give them the information and access that they're looking for, and certainly doesn't meet our needs in the long run either. There are other items on here that I think would round out the training experience as well as the background requirements that are needed for families to become certified. And then I spent a bit of time cultivating the concept of childcare and what it would be that the county could do to assist with recruitment or expansion of the available daycare providers in the county as well. Are there any questions? Or what do you see as being the next step in this process? Any questions?
It's just for my own somewhat selfish reasons, as you might know. As you know, sometimes we end up having to emergency certify parents. Are they going to get kind of bumped up into the process quicker?
That would be my hope with having, if I'm able to have people that we have previously trained, as well as then getting our own staff trained, that we'll be able to be responsive. Yeah.
Tammy, so having done this many, many years ago, being a MAC trainer, we did 2 sessions per year, so it was always rolling. It was wonderful because we would have other therapeutic foster parents involved in that training process that had been there for years.
Mm-hmm.
Would we bring in current foster families, parents that could help with that training?
Our model in the past had always been to have a staff member from DSS as well as somebody that was an active foster parent. There is someone that is an adopted parent that had previously done this training for us that may still be interested. I have not reached out to any of these people at this time, but that would be a possibility. There are some people that are much more distant from having provided this and having been in touch with our department, and then there is another person who has got much more current experience with DSS that I would like to also be able to utilize in a way to guide our strategy on this. So it's looking at all of those people and seeing what their availability is and where we can utilize them, whether it be just about the training of foster parents or about some of the other more hands-on stuff. Who would do like the home studies? Pardon? The home studies and the certifications? Do we have people here in Cushing County that do those? That's what we would be training people to do. Yeah. So previously, part of a past meeting, I asked and talked about the expansion of foster care. Yeah. We received the approval to add 5 positions to DSS. We've already also received permission to fill 2 of those positions, and we have 3 that are still pending, but they all have been approved. So we have promoted a grade B supervisor and a senior caseworker that would be overseeing this unit, and they would be 2 of the people that would be receiving the training when it becomes available, as well as potentially another caseworker on that team once we hire them. We do intend to get, these folks have just moved in, and actually not even fully moved into their office space yet. They're still transitioning out of their other positions. So once we're able to focus on this, we would like to actually invite in people who have had past experience with this, such as yourself, and ask some questions and get some feedback and advisement as to how we should move forward. I think Don Ward has a question, I think. Don, do you have a question? No. Dan, go ahead.
Hey, Tammy, I know we've discussed this before, and I know we're working that way, and then there's the upfront cost and then the long-term savings, basically. But so I'm just asking this, and maybe I should already know it. This $288,000, is that going to be a cost next year to start with? If we keep going, so this isn't impacting us yet. This is just a plan, or is this factored in your budget for next year?
This is not factored into my budget. This is the result of the working group that the Board of Supervisors had.
ARPA money we'll get next August. Makes sense.
It is.
And I didn't even know that it was next August.
Well, we have this one. This year's already covered in contingency.
Oh, it's already.
This one's locked and loaded.
Okay. That's where I was coming.
So the money's available for whenever the plan gets finalized, to put the money right to it. So yes, it's neutral at this point, or would be.
Yeah, this is going to very much complement and enable our staff to really provide this service in a way that it really rightfully should be done to be able to have success, as compared to all of the constraints that we had in the past when we were trying to recruit foster homes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Now?
Tammy, you asked what next steps are.
Yes.
And that would kind of depend on you. I mean, if you want to start with some of your outreach now, this committee could send it to finance, and we could get this in your budget to start the outreach portion of it now.
Okay.
And then, once you work through the personnel side, that could be brought to November's personnel committee on the trainer or whatever. But it really depends on when you want to start spending money.
Okay.
If you wanted to start sooner than later on the outreach piece, you could send that to finance now.
Right.
If you wanted to wait and do the whole bundle next month, that's.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with waiting. Right now, we're just in the beginning
I mean,
of,
there's no rush to do it this year even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your, when you're ready.
right. I though wanted to get a plan in front of the board because I know that has been discussed and it's earmarked. I wanted to be able to start, showing what my thoughts were on it and teasing out if there was any other, requests of the board related to that. I am comfortable with waiting at this point. I don't see a need to necessarily include any portion of it in the 2021 budget. Any other questions for Tammy on this? A lot of work's been done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
One question, Tammy, is that, when do you plan on implementing it, though? It's gonna be in the first quarter, I take it?
Yes, we're working on it. We just aren't at the point where we.
Right, but we're trying to hit the ground running in January, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's, even though it's not in the budget, it will be, I guess it's just gonna be
Yes.
moved at the point of implementation, is
Yes.
what you're saying, and I just want to.
Yes, and I foresee this as being over the course of the next few years. This is not going to be an all, I don't see this,
Right, the whole thing doesn't come into once, it's gonna come partially.
would be my thought, recommendation, yes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, back to
Yeah, you're coaching.
other business, and Mike Gray is, got some information for us. Hi, Mike.
Yes. Good morning, Chairwoman. I have two items. The first, I'm requesting a staffing pattern change to add back in a program specialist position that's due to a voluntary demotion. Supervisor stepping back down into that position. That's the first item. The grades, I'd like to work with Melissa and also Danielle to look at the qualifications for supervisor. And in the future, I'll be asking to backfill that supervisor's position. Moving someone up, I won't be adding anyone to the total number staffing pattern will stay the same. So.
So,
It has to be moved to personnel for consideration.
So move it to personnel, it's a given grade, taking out one position, putting in another position, I move it.
okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mike?
All right, thank you very much. The second item is I want to give you a brief update on where we're at with the Youth Bureau merger with Warren County. I met with the county administrator and the county attorney, and we developed a draft that was sent over to Warren County. It's also reviewed by the state, and it meets the draft met all the requirements the state had for a merger. And I know that the total cost of the merger was included in Warren County's DSS Commissioner's 2022 budget. Subsequent conversations, there were no major, we haven't heard anything officially back from them. But once we receive it back, we're going to bring it to committee and full board for their review, as well as a possible approval. So in the highlights of the agreement is that it was 2 year, the term of the agreement was 2 years. There was a 90-day out on part of both counties in the event we do not like the arrangement. It's essentially a duplication of the current services that we provide, and it's all around administration of the resource allocation of the Warren County funding. So I'm excited about the opportunity. It presents us with an opportunity to provide more youth development services in both counties. They're currently there, and I'll let you know as soon as we receive the feedback. I'll be forwarding it on to Melissa for her review, and we'll answer any questions. So.
Mike, you've been working very hard at this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're providing and our county's providing to help other Warren County kids and youth. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mike regarding the merger? Yes, Dan?
I don't have a question for Mike, but I do feel that I should show my gratitude to Mike and his department. For the last 3 years, we've been working on our town hall, and Mike has been very helpful providing services. Besides saving us money through his department, it speeded the process up because it allowed us not to put projects out to bid that we could have his people do, and it's been very beneficial. And I think I've been remiss over the last couple of years not mentioning it more often, but he just got done, they finished painting our town hall, our new section down, and it come out beautiful. And everybody's raving about it, Mike. So I wanted to thank you publicly for the ease it is to work with your department and for your humbleness, I should say. I mean, you should be very proud of what you get accomplished, and I'm surprised that you do it so modestly. Thank you again.
Well, thank you all, but I will pass that on to the people responsible for the work. The community service program coordinator and the assistant director, Sue Mowry, helped out immensely in that one project. But thanks, Dan, you're too kind.
And Mike, I have to ditto that with the Georgia Museum in Salem. So I think your services are long-reaching throughout the county. We all benefit. And it's a win-win situation. So, thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, and Mike, on the contract, is there anything that we need to do as a committee on that contract?
Not at this point. You'll have the final review, and if you're in agreement, possible approval, it would be moved to the full board, I believe. So as soon as I get it back, I'm going to forward it back to Melissa for her to take it from there.
Thank you. So at this point, we don't need to do anything?
No, Mike, waiting for feedback from Warren County, to make sure that the terms of the agreement are okay with them.
Okay.
And then we can bring it back, I guess, probably to this committee, right? If you want to move forward to the full board for authorization for signature.
So that would be December.
Very possible, because they're probably gonna pass their budget before they sign any agreements. More than likely, is what I'm guessing.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, for the update and authorization.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other business on the, I saw Ken Winchell on here. Did you have anything, Ken? I think we're good. So do we have a motion to adjourn? And yes, we're adjourned. Thank you. Have a good day.